now day 3. So day 3 is a disaster. We get up, that morning, go to the track. I was hoping to see my buddy John, who lives in the area. And so we get to Atco, we get set up. And, I do my zip tie thing on the car, thinking, all right, man, I'm ready to run another 13, mid 13. I know, keep checking the transmission fluid, and the transmission's nice and red, the fluid that is. So, I'm thinking, man, I don't know. So, zip tie it again, go up there, do my burnout. And by the way, again, I haven't raced, in quite a long time, so I'm finally learning how to do a good burnout again. And so I'm up there, I get staged, I go, launch the car, go hit second gear.
And Mike Turner in the Dart.
I may have to correct you, Brian, that is a 6-pack scoop, not a super stock scoop.
Not gaping enough?
Not gaping enough,
There's not
exactly.
enough gape. And trouble from Mike Turner as his car is kind of idling down to the 8th mile. A lean.
And guess what, man? This thing's at $6,000, no second gear. I pop it back in first, back in the second, nothing. So I just lift at that point in time. You can see I'm just, you can hear Freiberger here in a second. Up, he's just idling down the track. So, we get back to the staging lanes, or I'm sorry, back into the pits. And at that point in time, I'm like, what the hell? So I cut the zip tie up. I'm like, I'm going to make a pass without the zip tie this time. I'm tired of guessing what to do with it. Even if it just runs a 14, at least let's have all 3 gears shift. The transmission, this linkage, goofing around with it, it's just not working. So, I decided, what, let's play with the timing. Let's also play with the jets a little bit. So I make a jet change. And after I cut the zip tie off, I made a trip through the pits to make sure all the gears still work, because I thought I maybe have damaged it in that last pass. So while I'm driving around the pits, boom, boom, all 3 gears are working. I'm like, the heck with it. Let's get through the week. So while I'm making the changes to my car, our buddy Mark that we had met during the week, he loses a fuel pump. And so I'm over there helping Mark, working on my stuff. I had a time slip, granted, I think it was maybe 20 seconds that first run, but my cousin Rob's mainly over helping Rob now, trying to help him swap out fuel pumps and get his car together, because he's trying to make another pass. So I get my car all back together, and then all of a sudden I look at my fuel pressure gauge after trying to make the jets, and it's showing 12 PSI. I'm thinking, oh, what the hell is it doing at 12 PSI? So I take my fuel pressure and I adjust my fuel pressure down to, 6 or 7 PSI. It's already what? I think that day was, at Atco, it must have been felt like 105 degrees or something. I mean, it's freaking hot. It's beating down on us. It's miserable out. And so, I adjust the fuel pressure. I get back in line to make another pass. So I'm in the staging lanes. I do my burnout. Everything seems to be fine. I go up there, launch is all right.
Mike Turner and Ross McCracken coming up right now. McCracken in the 1976 Nova, and Mike Turner the 6-pack scoop equipped 70 Dart. Speaking of darts, we have a racer looking for parts. Cody Walker, a 1971 Dodge Dart Swinger, the one with the faux mod top, is looking for a MSD distributor for his Mopar small block. If you think this van is lame, you are...
Go to hit second, next thing you know, the car's breaking up bad. I mean, it just has no power. It's just breaking up. So I basically now hit it in the third, and I just kind of cruise down the track, and I make a 15-second pass. At that point in time, I'm like, what, the heck with it. It's already hot, we're miserable. We get Mark's car done, he makes another pass. Let's just pack up, let's call it a day. And so we get done at Atco, we have all, like I said, just mountainous issues there. The fluid is still red, still got all 3 gears. I'm like, let's go on the next day, let's get to Maryland International, right? So we cruise all, through the evening. Again, great crowds, great time, nice easy cruise. And I will say this, thank God I put in a fuel gauge, I think the day before we left. Because without it, I think I would have run out of fuel many times. So we get to Maryland International Way the next morning. You know, we find our pits together. So then we go make our pass.
Of the turbo 4-cylinder Dodge Mafia that's been here this weekend having a bunch of fun. Sherm Vining having some problems off the starting line as he is going to just kind of almost idle his way down the racetrack. 14-30.
You know, I made 2 passes. One was a 14.5.
And Mike Turner coming up right now. Mike Turner from Dexter, Missouri, the 1970 Dart. And Tim Bradshaw from Louisville, Kentucky, 2002 Mustang. 1092.8 at 121 for Tim Bradshaw as Michael Turner.
And I, you know, started playing around with it some more, and I got it down to 14.0. All right, so we finish up our runs at, both the runs at MIR, and, you know, we start packing up. You know, day was pretty good. It was flipping hot. Man, was it, I think it was like 108 degrees. So we head out from MIR. And we were traveling with another couple, Kristen and Cody Walker, and they lost second gear in their transmission, so we were traveling with them to make sure they could make it. And so we decided, you know what, it's hot, we're all miserable, you know, we're hungry, so we find, Kristen finds this little bar. And so we go on in there, you know, I think we spent an hour or so in there, have a couple of really cold beers and a really good burger. And then we, you know, hit the road. And for everybody, the drag weekers that know, we, you know, we start coming up to this toll bridge. And basically, you know, it's 2-lane coming up to the toll bridge. And then it widens to 4 lanes, 4 or 5 lanes, I think, and you pay your toll. But then after you pay your toll, it narrows down to 1 lane to go across the bridge. And so we're, you know, it's like 108. And we had come up to this top of the hill, and then you kind of go down, you know, down to the bottom of the hill to where the toll road's at. So we shut the car off, and we're in neutral, and we're sitting at the top and thinking, oh, you know what, I'll just roll down this hill in neutral. So the car next to us happens to be the, I think it's a 66 or 67 Nova, the blue one from Austria, the big supercharged one. And so we were sitting at the top of the hill, and they're in neutral with their engine off, and we're in neutral with our engine off, and we basically both let off the brakes, and we're like just rolling down the hill, seeing who can get to the bottom of the hill faster. You know, we're doing the paddle thing, and we're trying to see who can get there first, and they beat us. But that's just another great, you know, story from the week that we had. And so, you know, we get through the checkpoints. You know, get it, and you know, make it no problem. Cody and Kristen make it to their hotel, no problem. So now, here we are. We made it. We're in front of VMP. You know, we made it to day 5. So, pull into the track. You know, we get the car prepped and ready. All we got to do is break the beams, and you know, I can say I survived drag week. So. With some changes, I noticed that the battery cable is loose on my starter solenoid. So I did not have a lock washer on that. And the one thing I've learned from drag week, right, is now I've driven about 800 miles, 1,000 miles with getting lost a couple times, that Loctite stuff and lock washers, because, you know, things come loose. So got my starter solenoid, got that, you know, tightened back up. And that was about the only problem I had that day. So we go out there, we make, I think, a 13.8 or 13.9
rear leaf springs. Leaf springs taking him to 1485 at 91 miles an hour, and in the left-hand lane, 1317 at 104. Here's more texting. It says here on the back window of this Dart, loans. I'm from Michigan, not Missouri. Once again, our apologies to everybody here at Drag Week if we've been getting your hometown wrong or your name butchered. Sometimes that is as a result of the information keyed into the computer, and that is a fact in this case. It says Dexter, Missouri. He is in fact from Michigan in that 1970 Dodge Dart, as Jeff Poor goes down in the Cadillac on the left-hand side, 1150, and the Dart on the right-hand lane from Michigan, 1395. With
on my first time down the track, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to throw some more timing at this thing. We pull the passenger seat out of this thing. Let's see what we can do to make it as fastest pass ever. And the one thing I noticed finally is I've been having timing issues all week, and I set the timing at almost 40 degrees this final pass, because what was going on is, for some weird reason, when I started increasing the idle speed, the timing was actually retarding and not advancing with this distributor for some odd reason. And I could never figure it out. I've been, playing around with this stupid transmission all week with zip ties, no zip ties. Finally I decided, at MIR and VMP to do a no zip tie on it. Whatever happens, happens. If we burn up the transmission, we burn it up. And then I decide, all right, we've been trying to run a velocity stack with no velocity stack with air cleaner all week, and I noticed for some reason running an air cleaner, it ran better with the air cleaner. Finally at VMP, because it picked up almost a half a second than running it with a velocity stack.
Correct. We can see a lot of these over the years, many of them with LSs in them. Got a drag radial on the back of that one is Brandon Butella. That's a 167 in a short time. Going to go through the 8th at 92.97 miles an hour, and the quarter mile 1165 at 115. Michael Turner on the left-hand side with the 70 Dodge Dart, which I call the new Fox Mustang because there's so many of them here at Drag Week. He goes 1335 at 104.
At 13.3, fastest pass all week. I'm like, where the hell's that been since day one? At least the car should be 1220s at least, but at least we got it down to 13.3, and I was we make our 2 runs and we celebrate now. I ran a 13.3 personal best in the car. I'm done. It'd been a heck of a week. So I go turn my time slip in, and it's time for a cold beer to celebrate the week. And then, we go watch some of the other cars making their passes. And we got a chance to watch Finnegan, make his pass and win Drag Week. And what was also awesome is to see Tom Bailey go out and rip off that 599.
There's only one reason why they're making this pass, and it starts with a 5.
That was incredible to be there in person. Everybody was just hooping it up, and when they were interviewing Tom, obviously it was a big feat, and that was just neat to see in person, not on the live stream. The next week, nobody really tells you, or at least I've never seen anything, but man, I was wiped out physically and mentally until like Thursday or Friday the next week. I was just, 3 o'clock would come around and I'm yawning. I'm nodding off at work. I'm barely able to stay awake. So man, I don't drink coffee, but I should have started because I was just really struggling. All I can say is, man, what a great experience. And I got to really thank my wife for letting me go and do this event. My cousin Rob for coming along and basically helping me out with this entire week. The people that we met just throughout the week, and it was just a great time. Man, it was. I can say I survived Drag Week. Because I honestly didn't know if I was going to make it after the first day pulling out of VMP and not having second gear. So I'm holding a couple things in my hand. After I got home from drag week, you know, I knew that there was something not right 100% in the transmission, that it wasn't happy. You know, again, I should have been going faster than the 13.3, my personal best. I know we had the distributor issue where it was retarding timing. And so when I got home, you know, I pulled the transmission pan and I found this mess. As you can see, there is a bunch of little sparkly stuff in there. And I'm thinking, oh no, man, how did this transmission survive drag week? And so I pulled the transmission out, pulled the transmission down, and I did not find a single thing inside the transmission. Everything was fine. All the thrust washers were fine. You know, all the surfaces were fine. You know, there's a couple of you know, pieces of aluminum there. There was nothing rubbing or damaged. I couldn't find anything in the transmission wrong, causing all that little sparkles you saw in the pan. So then, you know, I picked up this transmission cooler used. Well, when I started blowing, you know, fluid through the transmission cooler, more and more crap started coming out. So this nice transmission cooler that I picked up used off of somebody, basically he had burned up his transmission and, you know, sold me a lemon. So, note to self, if you buy a used transmission cooler, make sure you blow something through it to see if it's full of crap. And so yeah, this one is going to the curb because I don't trust it. I did find something, however, wrong with the transmission. Not related to, you know, something, the shavings, you know, like all those shavings in the pan. Basically, I did burn to a crisp my direct, you know, in the transmission. All the steels here are toast. All the frictions are toast. So there goes my 12-second passes all week. That was caused by me not having that cable going down to the transmission that increases the line pressure, you know, when as you increase your speed. So I did burn up the direct in the transmission. So that was, everything else in the transmission was fine. The bands were all fine. The lower reverse was fine. Everything else was good. So I just had to go ahead and get, you know, some new frictions and steels for the direct, put it all back together. So with that said, what are you guys doing to make your car better for next year? Because I'm doing this. So here we are with everything that I'm doing for my car. You can see I, you know, we got an MSD distributor. V-bands on the exhaust so I can drop the exhaust real quick and shed another 40 or so pounds. Reverse manual valve body. A true reverse manual valve body, not a kit. Got rid of the power steering, there's another 40 pounds with manual steering. Fiberglass front bumper. And in fact, I just got a deal on a fiberglass rear bumper, so thank you, Corey, for that. I will be out soon to get that from you. I also switched out the carburetor for one that was from the carb shop that I got from another drag weeker. I'm going to be putting a carb spacer on. I'm going to be making some changes to the intake manifold. I added transmission temp gauge. I got a wideband O2 sensor that's now going to be on the car. So that'll help with the tune. So hopefully I don't run into the problems I ran into Echo where I was running lean. So these are just a few of the changes that I've made. Overall, I'll probably lighten the car up about 200 or so pounds. So that'll make a big difference. And I hope to see everyone at 2020 Drag Week. I will be there whether I am registered or not on the 22nd of February. So looking forward to seeing everyone again next year, or I should say this year. And so thanks again everyone for taking the time to watch the videos. If you like them, you know, please like, subscribe, hit the little bell as they say, to be a subscriber to Shop Jog Fabrication. And after this, I'll put on just a bunch of more pictures, random pictures of other people's cars and stuff. So again, thanks for watching everyone, and get out in your shop and make something happen.